Let's just go through Starmer and Trump. I mean, it was the right thing to do. When Donald Trump, the most powerful man in the world, is in the country, it's obviously the right thing to do for Keir Starmer to go meet with him. And they had dinner with him. I mean, can you imagine, though, Donald Trump, Keir Starmer and John Swinney, the SNP leader, I mean, at dinner last night, I mean, good God, I mean, and that's the start of the worst joke, you know, these three men walk into a pub. But this, Donald Trump held forth, much as I'm doing right now. Cut taxes, stop the boats, lower energy prices, keep out of foreign wars. It's all good advice, isn't it?
Well, he's just obviously not going to take it. And it did essentially end up sounding like whoever does this is going to win the next election, i.e. Nigel Farage is going to win the next election. So it wasn't as helpful to Keir Starmer as it might have seemed as he was proffering this advice. But to be honest, that was probably not even the worst of the exchanges that they had over the course of the day.
Tell us.
I mean, the Sadiq Khan one. I mean, calling with Donald Trump, you know, revisiting their long-held beef, which, you know, Sadiq Khan has had a big part of maintaining over the years, calling him a nasty person, saying that he's made a mess of London, both of which I think are fair comments. And then Starmer having to very sheepishly push back on this, I thought was very, very funny.
Well, when he said, like, he's a friend of mine. He didn't say, no, he's not. You don't contradict the president. But he can say, he can point out, also, he's a friend of mine. Let's have a little listen to Donald Trump talking about, well, how to win an election in the UK.
Generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars. And in your case, a big immigration component, you know, because I know that your attitude has become strong on immigration, strong on the toughness of immigration.
I mean, I think what he meant there by Donald Trump is, you know, stopping the boats, but obviously he's not doing any of that, and no one's really that convinced that Keir Starmer actually intends and really wants to do it. He's paying lip service to these concerns because we know that actually he thinks people who are opposed to either legal immigration en masse or illegal immigration are just nasty, horrible racist bigots and far right. I mean, that's what he actually thinks. That's what he's saying. But I can imagine the meetings in Number 10 where he's just going, I mean, look, you know, these people are all just ghastly, but we're going to have to play along because otherwise there might be riots on the streets.
Yeah, and it's felt like playing along. I mean, there was a few months ago where he was trying to kind of change his rhetoric, even before the infamous Island of Stranger speech, which he's now U-turned on and then U-turned on again. Yeah. It's hard to keep up. But it was always felt like lip service. And to be honest, I think on this score, this Labour government is kind of behind a lot of other centrist or even centre-left governments across Europe who have recognised that they've really got to deal with this, not just as a sop to their voters, but because it's a problem and it's not going away in this kind of globalised world in which...
And you get, you know, Nigel Farage pointing out, you know, that immigration is to blame for a rise in rape. So we were saying 40% of sexual assaults now, you know, are being committed by people of foreign nationality. I think in London. I mean, I'm sorry, you know, you've got to start saying something is going on, and we need to tackle this issue. And again, we were talking to one of the mums who's actually a Reform candidate, but a mum in Epping, who was attending those protests outside the Bell Hotel. You know, saying these are ordinary mums, you know, being genuinely worried about their teenage daughters having to walk past a group of young men, a large group of young men who, by definition, are criminals. They've arrived in the country illegally, undocumented, who you know, coming from countries where they simply do not have the same attitudes. And I've just come back from scuba diving in the Red Sea in Egypt, and I'm fascinated by how many people, you know, in the airport, again, sort of they're allowing their teenage girls to dress, and like I'd say inappropriate in any airport, let alone an airport in a Muslim country. One needs to have a certain level of respect. I think if you're in someone else's country, it would be nice if people felt that way about our country. But people thinking it's the Costa del Sol. And thinking, you know, you have the same rights and it's the same behaviour. And it's just not. And the attitudes, and I've seen this when I've been, you know, in the hotel, but with my, you know, 6'3" husband, and how well you and your teenage daughter get treated. And then when your teenage daughter doesn't have her 6'3" dad around, how suddenly the appearance, even of staff in the hotel, suddenly, you know, and I'm to put a point on me actually having to go, you know, do one, actually having to tell staff to, frankly, F off to get away. Now, you know, and those are people who are used to working with Westerners. I'm just saying a lot of these young men, I'm just saying, I don't think they have the attitudes that I would expect of people towards teenage girls when they are here. And everyone feels uncomfortable when people say that. But I talk to the young women in my office and they talk about, you know, the harassment they're getting on the streets in London now. It is an issue. Donald Trump also mentioned Putin in this meeting, and he said that he's going to have to agree to a Ukraine ceasefire in 10 or 12 days' time instead of at the end of that 50-day period he suggested previously, that deadline he gave him to come to the table, when we finally saw a little bit of a cigarette paper between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump on Ukraine. That the 50-day deadline is in 35 days' time. Now, basically, he's saying he's basically, taking it down to 10 or 12 days. Does this have any meaning? Will this make any difference?
Well, I mean, it does seem to often have the immediate impact of some kind of escalation from the Russian side. I mean, there's even been some reports about, prisoners being assassinated in the facilities in Zaporizhia. So it's one of those things where these timelines, they might sound great from Trump's perspective, but it often kind of creates a kind of space in which Russia feels that it can go all out for a period of time, partly as a kind of show of strength, but also because of the fact that it's been clearly delineated when they're expecting more talks to begin. It's nice at least that the mood has shifted here, that Trump has recognised that Putin was not the forced into this invasion, that he was kind of the victim, even if he was lashing out in a slightly over-the-top way. The penny has dropped there. That's good. There is more talk about giving Ukraine the leverage it needs and the weaponry it needs to negotiate from a position of strength. But even so, I think there's still a level of naivety, thinking that you can just make it, you can just sort it all out over a sort of
and again, you can have peace at any time if Ukraine capitulates. That's not the peace that we're looking for. Just mentioning Gaza as well. Keir Starmer's going to hold an emergency cabinet meeting today about Gaza. I don't know why it's suddenly an emergency he needs to discuss. I'm not entirely sure what the British government has got to do with any of this. There's a lot of pressure from, pretty much all, was it 200 Labour backbenchers have signed this letter calling for the recognition of Palestinian state. Keir Starmer's apparently going to be outlining his plan for the Middle East peace plan. Again, as Donald Trump said about Macron, what he says doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. There's no doubt at all there is a massive load of pressure on the Prime Minister within his own political party and voters to recognise Palestine. But it's it is utterly meaningless and pointless virtue signalling nonsense, apart from the fact that it does give succour to the Hamas terrorists currently ruining the lives of everyone in Gaza and still holding, we know, at least 20 hostages verified to still be alive from October the 7th.
No, absolutely. It's at best a virtue signal that will have absolutely no meaningful impact on the ground. What is this supposed to suddenly spark some kind of process? Who is going to run this government? Is it Hamas? Is it Palestinian Islamic Jihad, who are even crazier than Hamas are? You look at the Palestinian Authority over in the West Bank, it's a corrupt, decrepit, hated regime in that
haven't
part
had
of
an
the
election
world.
in 20 years.
Absolutely.
Same as Hamas.
Exactly. This is an absurdity. And yet I think it's engaged in partly because people like Macron, people like Starmer, lame ducks domestically, like to pose as great statesmen on the world stage. And there's also a sense that because of the fact that they both have problems with their voter coalition, because of the fact that we did see at the last election Labour actually losing seats to these Gaza independents, there is a desire to at least show that they're moving in that direction. I don't think that will work for them there either. Those kinds of voters are already lost to the Labour Party. If your number one issue is Gaza, you think Keir Starmer is a sellout and complicit in genocide.
But Angela Rayner leading the court, Angela Rayner is so, everything she's doing right now is quite clearly I'd love to be the next leader. I don't think Keir Starmer's going to last the way. And she's been chained to a tune, or whether she wants that job even. And she's absolutely pandering to these groups, no doubt at all. I'm quite horrified to see Wes Streeting. Again, someone who I think most people thought was a pretty sane soul before this. He's calling for it. But again, he narrowly won his seat because of a pro-Gaza candidate. And again, we are letting the politics of Hamas, because that's what it is, rule our foreign policy, and that is not a good thing. It's quite extraordinary. Let's talk about the politics of Jimmy Savile. I think this is so outrageous. Peter Kyle, the Science Technology Secretary, in an interview on Sky News this morning, he was asked, and he was given plenty of time to back this up. It wasn't a slip of the tongue, and he's doubled down on social media since. He was asked about Online Safety Act and the fact that a huge number of people have now been downloading VPNs. So these are just obviously ways of just basically getting out of. No one knows who you are. You don't have to verify your identity. So you can download online porn or see anything you want to see if you've got a VPN. I've got a VPN, because I've got a husband in IT, so apparently that's what I have to have. But again, the idea that you're just dodgy because you're using a VPN is quite extraordinary. But he said the most extraordinary thing. He said that it's just outrageous. Make no mistakes, if we're people out there who are extreme pornographers, peddling hate, peddling violence, Nigel Farage is on their side. And he said that because Nigel Farage has said that the Reform Party, if elected, would scrap the Online Safety Act. But Peter Carr said, make no mistake about it, if people like Jimmy Savile were alive today, he'd be perpetrating his crimes online. And Nigel Farage is saying that he's on their side. Now, Nigel Farage has understandably asked for an apology for the disgusting comment. Peter Carr has doubled down, and he's written since on X, if you want to overturn the Online Safety Act, you're on the side of predators. It's as simple as that. Well, I want to overturn the Online Safety Act. So does that mean I'm on the same side as Jimmy Savile as well? Are you?
Well, apparently so. I mean, this was absolutely shameful attack, wasn't it? And I think the fact that he repeated it, that he's doubled down on social media since, I think that would suggest that this was a line he went in there intending to make, maybe even advised to make, maybe even advice to make by Number 10. So this is clearly the way that they're trying to attack this particular issue.
The Reform are definitely going for the women's vote now. They've had a lot more male votes than female votes. They're trying to go for the women's vote. Women, women mostly mums, care about kids. Do you think they think this is a good way of attacking reform?
I suppose so. I mean, it's also, there's been a lot of kind of Jimmy Savile-related mudslinging. I mean, it's funny thinking back to when Boris Johnson accused Keir Starmer of kind of letting Jimmy Savile off the hook because he was, Director of Public Prosecutions for a period when he could have been brought to justice.
Which he did.
And there was this big response from the Labour Party, like, how dare you say this? How dare you kind of...
But it was relevant to his job.
Oh, no, absolutely. And it's one of those things where to see them trot this out now, maybe this is them thinking, you know what, we need to, get down in the gutter a bit more if we're going to take the fight to reform. But I think this is only going to really rebound badly on them. The story this morning is not reform are shamefully siding with the sex offenders. It's Labour throwing this Jimmy Savile insult at them, and I think that's the way it's already landing with them.
Absolutely. I think it's an outrageous allegation. And, I'd love to know, Peter Carr, if you think that I'm on the side of Jimmy Savile as well, because clearly you must think that, because I, like many people who defend freedom, on the side of the Online Safety Act, against the Online Safety Act. That said, I do want something done about violent, horrific, nasty, misogynistic, rape scene porn, which is pretty much all porn nowadays, and children seeing it. I don't think the Online Safety Act is the answer. But I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Please tell me what you think. Was it right for Peter Carr to say this? Was it right for Nigel Farage to demand an apology? Do you support the Online Safety Act? Not get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Love to hear your thoughts on that. And what do you make, crucially, of Donald Trump's advice to Keir Starmer that he needs to cut taxes and stop the boats? That's fundamentally what he needs to do if he wants to beat Nigel Farage. Cut energy prices, stay out of wars as well. But would that sway your vote? Even if, let's just say, Prime Minister did all of that, would that mean you'd support him and you'd vote for him against all your better judgment? You didn't think he'd do it, but he does do it. If, and it's a big if, do you think he would do it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Tell us why it would make you vote for Keir Starmer. Tell us why, even if he did achieve all of those things, why you wouldn't still vote for him. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number. This is Talk.